Hello, and thank you for joining me today. Today, we are going to talk a little bit about soreness and at times why it is and how it is misrepresented as something to achieve or aspire to do. So, kind of reviewing the talking points for today, we're looking at should I be sore? Why does the body get sore? And a couple of points here that I'll expand upon a little bit. The body being unprepared for the exercise or the stimulus, compensation or pre-existing injury, and then some other finer points about how soreness can indicate an adaptation or some sort of change in the body, but that it's not a requirement here. And then seeing the note about the minimal effective dose, which I'll talk about a little bit more, and that's a really important key point there. And then listening to the body about how we're prioritizing proficiency and progressive overload or progressive overloading. So getting a chance to see all that there, and maybe you'll still be able to see it in the background as I'm going over these things. But just a really important point here, because oftentimes as we're working with different folks, all shapes and sizes, ages, from kids really up until our 80s plus, we're seeing that people have this expectation of being sore, that they want to be sore. And truthfully, when I first get the chance to meet with someone, I tell them explicitly that it is not our goal to make you really, really sore. Oftentimes, that is a problem. And so, in the first point here that I've written, it's that the body is unprepared for the exercise or the stimulus that we've programmed in for you. So if I bring you on board for your first workout and you haven't really exercised in a long time, if not ever, my job here is to undershoot to make sure that I have a better idea of where the body is at and what it can handle. If I've overdone that through volume or intensity, the body is most certainly going to get sore from this. So what we mean by volume, it could be the sheer number of reps. Okay, so maybe I take a sit and stand or a box squat or something like that. And maybe you haven't worked out in a while, and or you've never worked out and you want to start getting into working out. I might do something like a 5 or a 6 rep range, something on the lower end, so we can practice the movement without overdoing it with a 10 or a 12 or a 15 rep range. We're doing this for 15 reps. That's a lot of reps if it's something that we haven't really done before, right? Yeah, sure, we sit down and stand up all day throughout the day, but to do it in a controlled environment, focusing on our form and doing it rep after rep without taking any sort of rest in between those reps, that's going to be a lot for the body, and it hasn't really been prompted or prepared for that. So that's the volume aspect of it. The intensity could be interpreted as we've never really done a sit and stand before in a controlled environment for exercise, and now I throw a 15-pound dumbbell in your hand, or worse yet, a 25-pound dumbbell in your hand. And while there may be some baseline capacity here that displays that you have the ability to manage that external load of 15 or even 25 pounds, it's not something that we've done before. So that is something that could result in soreness. And this is evidence that it's been something that the body is not necessarily prepared to do. Now, why this is problematic is if I've introduced a stimulus that the body's not prepared for, it's going to delay my recovery, and it's going to strain a lot of different aspects of body and wellness. So as I'm sore or really, really sore, my immune system functioning won't be as high. My sleep quality, it's unlikely, will be as good. And just, let's face it, we're probably going to be a little bit more irritable all the way around because we're sore, right? So that first part, it really is the main point here, is that the primary reason why the body gets sore is because it is unprepared for the exercise or the stimulus that we may have programmed in. And listen, whether you're programming for yourself or you have a coach that's programming for you, it's not a perfect science. Unfortunately, I wish that it was. The best thing that we can do, and I'm going to skip ahead here, is try to find the minimum or the minimal effective dose. I want to try and find the very minimal of what it is that I need to elicit a response in the body. If I haven't really practiced sit and stands before, sitting down on a chair or sitting down on a bench and standing back up, I probably don't want to dose this in too significantly on my very first day. So that's why I said initially, maybe I'm looking at 5 or 6 reps here, and maybe I'm thinking 3 sets of this, and I could rest something like 2 or 3 minutes in between, get a full recovery, get a really good idea of where my body is at, so I don't push it too far too soon, because it will delay my recovery, and it's going to get in the way of a lot of other functions of the human body. So, and really, the amount of progress that we make on that backslide is negligible. There's no real benefit for the body to become that sore. We want to try to find the minimal amount of soreness that we need. A little bit of soreness is okay, but overshooting it and doing too much, and then on the back end of that, there's a greater risk of potential injury as the body is sore and we're not moving as well as we're used to, and we're still subject to our daily physical tasks. So another reason why we might be sore here is compensation or pre-existing injury. So, I'll use the lower back thing, right? Most of us, if not presently, at some point in our lives, have had an issue with our lower back, and as we work out, it begins to flare. This is a part, no matter what exercise it is that we're doing, even if it's bicep curls or something like that where we're focusing on the arms, it is a part, the lower back, in that exercise. So if that starts to flare and I'm feeling that in my exercise, maybe first step, I want to take a look at my form, make sure that I'm bracing my core well. But if it continues to persist, I want to either back down the load, back down the reps, or maybe just mail it in for that day and say, okay, the body's telling me that I've had enough here, because if I continue to push through, I'm going to experience that significant soreness that we were just talking about moments ago. We want to try to avoid that significant soreness, because slowed down recovery time, increased risk of injury, strain on the body as an overall system. We want to try to avoid that. We want to optimize our recovery. We want to come back for our next workouts, and we don't want it to disrupt our day-to-day function. So, next point here is soreness can indicate adaptation. It can mean that there's going to be some sort of lean muscle tissue growth, or the body is repairing. That is true. It is sometimes evidence that we did have a good workout, although I would really focus on the work that I did inside the workout. Feeling good that I pushed myself without totally exhausting myself in the workout. Instead, I would try to focus on that and not the soreness that comes after. If it does, it does. If it doesn't, that's okay. One of the things that is misrepresented is that no pain, no gain mentality, that we need to be in pain in order to show that we worked hard. We know if we worked hard. We know in the gym when we worked out if we pushed ourselves. And that's what we want to get a better gauge on here. So moving ahead, we see that minimal effective dose, which I expanded upon a little bit earlier. But just to reiterate, or look at it a different way, if this is not a typical way that we move our bodies, there's not really a need to go to the nth degree with the amount of reps that we do, or with the load that we're managing as we're doing this, because just by doing the exercise, we're presenting a novel stimulus to the body. We don't really need to do too much beyond that. So trying to find the minimal effective dose of what the body needs in order to elicit some form of adaptation there. Then this final point here, we really want to listen to the body and prioritize proficiency in the movement. And I say proficiency and not form intentionally. I want to get good. I want to get good at this movement. I don't want to be in a box and only move mechanically through the movement pattern. I want to get good at it. I want to practice the movement, know the positions well, know when I might not be necessarily optimal in a position, but feeling good and feeling like I can push myself in whatever exercise it is that I'm doing. Quick note here at the end about progressively overloading the movement. So this means that week over week, as we're doing our sit and stands perhaps, maybe one way that we could progressively overload this exercise is by beginning with 5 reps. And then the next week, maybe we try our 6 reps. And then the week after that, on week 3, now we're trying 7 or even 8 reps or something like that. We're trying to find some way to overload the exercises week after week to try and push that adaptation, because the hope is that we were able to achieve the 5 reps on week 1 without overshooting, and it was very manageable. And so there should be some adaptation there from week 1 into week 2. So I'd want to move it up just a little bit, maybe 6 reps or 7 reps, based off of how easy the first week was. We want to undershoot first week, big time undershoot, and then progressively overload week after week for a 4, 5, or 6 week cycle before kind of starting back to where we began and then building up and seeing if we could pass that on the next wave. So thinking about building up week over week instead of just in that workout. All right. I actually was hoping to make this a little bit shorter, but I think it's been the longest video that I've done yet. So if you stayed with me this long, I appreciate your patience and hanging out with me. This is a video about soreness and the importance of it and the role that it plays in recovery. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you next time.